and several virulent diseases, and was determined to survive him. She did not allow her limb to collapse under Will's weight, advanced years or no. Instead, she simply pulled him skidding through the mud. After several laps, he appeared to be done. With her free hoof, she kicked him in the forehead to emphasize the lesson, then walked away.
"I think you almost got her that time,"
Albor called in what might be generously described as an encouraging tone. Will did not respond. Personal honor was at stake at this point in the proceedings. Still, there was only so much mud a man could swallow. He clambered to his feet and retreated to consider his options. Dunstan patted him on the shoulder as he collapsed against the fence. Bessie regarded him balefully.
"She's too strong for me,"
Will said when he'd gotten his breath back.
"To be fair, you say that about most girls,"
Albor told him. "I have to outsmart her."
"That too,"
Dunstan chipped in.
"Don't usually work, though."
Albor chewed a strand of straw sagely.
"This," said Will, his temper fraying, "is not so much helpful advice as much as it is shit swilling in a blocked ditch. That pig has to become crispy rashers, and if you have nothing helpful to add, you can go back to picking apples in the orchard."
For a short while, the only sound was Bessie farting noisily in her corner of the sty. Above the men, thin clouds swept across a pale blue sky. The distant mountains were a misty purple, almost translucent. Will softened. None of this was Albor's or Dunstan's fault, even if they did not want to see old Bessie taken to the butcher's block. Deep down, deeper perhaps now than at the start of his ordeal, neither did he. Bessie had been part of this farm as long as he could remember. His father had sat him upon her back and had him ride around the sty, whooping and hollering, while his mother stood clucking her tongue. Dunstan and Albor had been there, cheering him on. Even old Firkin had been there. But now Will's parents were gone to an early grave, and Firkin had lost his mind. Bessie was old and would not sow any more. And Will was the unwilling owner of a farm on the brink of ruin.
"Look,"
he said, voice calmer.
"I want Bessie dead no more than you do, but I'm out of options. The consortium increased taxes again, and paying them has left my coffers bare. If I'm to have a hope of surviving another year, I need to put her to the knife and sell her pieces for as much as I can get. Next winter she'll be blind and hobbled, and it will be a kindness."
Another silence.
"You can't wait a little, Will,"
said Albor, straw drooping in the corner of his mouth.
"Give her one last good year."
Will sighed.
"If I do, then there won't be anyone to slaughter her. This whole place will be gone to the consortium, and I'll be in a debtor's jail, and you two will be in old Cornwall's tavern without any sheks to pay for his ale."
At that threat, the two farmhands looked at each other. Finally, Dunstan shrugged.
"I never liked that fucking pig anyway."
Albor echoed his sad smile.
"That's more like it," said Will. "Now, let's see if, together, 3 grown men can't outwit one decrepit pig."
Slowly, painfully, Will, Albor, and Dunstan hobbled back toward the farmhouse. Albor rubbed at a badly bruised hip. Dunstan was wringing muddy water out of his sodden, matted beard.
"It's all right," said Will. "We'll get her tomorrow."
Later, the farm's other animals locked away for the night, straw fresh on the barn's floor, Will stood in the farmhouse, heating a heavy iron pot full of stew over the hearth. A few strips of chicken roiled fretfully among vegetable chunks. He never bothered naming the chickens. It was easier that way. He sighed as he watched the stew slowly simmer. He should be checking the cheese presses, or scooping butter out of the churn and into pots before it spoiled, or possibly even attempting to tally his books so he could work out exactly how much money he owed folk. Instead, he stood and stared. The nights were long out on the farm. It was 5 miles through the fields and woods down to the village. The distance had never seemed far when he was a child, but that was when his parents were alive, and when Dunstan and Albor and even Firkin would all have stayed to share the supper, with laughter and jokes, and fiddle music lilting late into the night. That was when performing the chores around the house had never seemed exactly like work, and when stoking the fire so it warmed the whole room had never felt like an